This is Denise Mathew, and I'm going to do a tutorial on a single bead wire wrapped ring. And what you need for that is you need probably about 22 inches of 20 gauge wire. I also have a bead that's about 8 millimeters. You can do between a 6 to an 8, whatever you have on hand, as long as the hole is big enough to put the wire through it twice. I also have my ring mandrel, but if you have a specific type of thing that you use, like a wooden dowel or something like that, you could use that as well. Okay, so today we're going to make a ring about size 6, and when you're making a ring, usually you're going to go a little bit bigger than what your ring size is. So for instance, if I want to make a size 6, I'm about
7 3/4
is where I'm going to start my ring. Okay, so the first thing we have to do, it's really important to make sure that your wire can go through your bead two times. So I'm just going to stick one half in and then just the other half in, just to make sure, and as you can see, it works perfectly. Okay, always check before you start doing your beading project, because there's nothing more frustrating than when it won't go through, the wire won't go through. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my nylon pliers just to straighten out this wire, so it'd be easier for me to use it. It's not necessary, but in my experience, I find it's nicer to work with something a little straighter. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slide my wire right down the mandrel, and I'm going to stop right at that same 7 3/4 space. Okay, and I'm going to wrap this wire around twice. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to hold it like that, and then I'm going to go around on the bottom, bring the wire right up. Do not cross your wires, please. And round on the top. Okay, so what you're left with is 3 wraps. Okay? Alright, now position it back in that same space. 7 3/4, and I'm going to put my bead on now. I'm going to thread my bead on. Okay, and once the bead is on, I'm going to thread the other wire through. Now these are not to cross either, it's going through the other opposite direction. Okay, and then I'm going to pull it, actually, there, pull it tight, okay? And when I do, the ring gets a little smaller. So already I'm up to almost 7, okay? Size 7. But then again, we're going to a size 6 eventually. Okay, now that I'm there, okay, now you have the wires pulled through and they're not crossed, which is really important. Now if you slide it off, this is what it should look like. Okay, so you're sort of, you know that you're on the right direction if you see it like that. Okay, now this is my own way of wrapping, which I decided was kind of an interesting thing to do. So what you're going to do is you're going to do a half turn of one wire, stabilizing it, okay, around there, and then you're going to do a half turn in the opposite direction, okay, and then you're going to do a half turn that way. I'm just trying to slide it down. If you notice, I'm sliding it underneath there, and then underneath again. Now if it starts to slide off, just slide it back into place. Wire is very malleable, if you notice that. Okay, now I'm going to go again, and I've got it guided underneath, if you notice, see? And back again. Now don't go too far down, because you will need some tails to do the sides. And then we're pretty much where we want to be. And if you see from the side, again, just position it the way you want. This bead is a bit slippery, so it's sort of sliding up a little bit, but that's all right. We can slide it back into place. You're still getting the effect you want. Okay, now it's an interesting sort of rising on the side. Okay, so now the way to do it is we're going to stabilize it to finish this bead, this ring off. Okay, and I'm going to use this. Don't go too hard yet, because really, until that first wrap is there, you're still quite the ring is still quite unstable. And I've got a shorter tail on one side than the other, so I'm going to make sure that I do the shorter tail before I do the longer tail, because I want them both to be the same. And I will run out of wire if I do too many loops on this side. I will run out of wire on this side. Okay, so now I'm stable. Okay, so now I can start to wrap. And if you notice, the ring became a lot smaller, closer to the 6 that I was originally shooting for. Okay, and that's one wrap. And there you go, 2. Let's see what we can get out of this. If you want more, you're going to want to make sure that you have enough wire, so that means cut it a little bit longer. I started out with a 22, sorry, about 22 inches, which I already told you. So, okay, now I'm just going to take my chain nose and I'm going to squeeze that in. Finish it in there like that. Okay, now how many wraps do I have? Push them up, push them together. I have 4, so that means I've got to do 4 on the other side. And if your ring begins to sort of get a little wiggly or it moves out of place, just reposition it just like I did. Okay? So now I'm going to do this 1. I'm going to do 4 on this side. We've got 1 already. This is 2, 3, and 1 more after this, and we have equal amounts. Okay, and that looks just fine. Squeeze them together. Oops, I think I did 1 extra. Yeah. So I'll just undo that to make it even. And see, this is how you do. You might make a mistake, but all you have to do is correct it. So basically I'm just going to cut my wire about here and then tuck it in like I did the other side. Any edges that are sharp should be filed down, of course, because you want to, and this edge is fairly sharp, so I will later on file that up. Okay, so let's measure the size of it. Okay. Now, when you're measuring the size, which it is exactly a 6, just make sure that you straighten it out nicely. Now, what I normally do at this stage is I will harden it up a little bit by just giving the wires a little tap. It's a nice thing to do for rings because you really don't want rings wiggling. Okay? After you do that, it can sometimes increase your size. Okay? So that is the downside to doing that. So if you do want to harden it like that, you can make it even one size smaller, and then it will increase. And it's also good if you've made it too small. It's a nice way to increase your size. So I've already increased my size to a size 7. Okay, and that's your ring. And this concludes the tutorial for single bead wire wrapped rings, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you like it, and share if you feel it's worth sharing. And I will see you next time. Thanks again. Bye.